Hi, this is Sweet June. How's everybody doing? Coming back at you with another interesting video topic. I want to talk about, I was marinating on something. I like, I mean, I marinate on different things. I meditate on different things. And I was thinking about, I'll be looking at the news and everything. And I don't know about you guys, but when I look at the news, it's, it's just so depressing. I got to keep abreast on what's going on in the news because um, Bible prophecy is being fulfilled, and we're getting really really close to the end of this system. So I try to keep abreast. It keeps me spiritually grounded. It keeps me on the watch. The Bible says stay on the watch, so it keeps me on the watch. Um, so I can be cognizant of what. Try to keep my focus spiritually. Because sometimes it's difficult. I mean, it's not easy. You know. So I'm not gonna say it's easy. It's not. Um, so when I look at the news, it just it helps me to realize the perilous times that we're living in. That we're really really living in some perilous times, and it's really 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 getting close to the end. So that just helps me keep abreast on that and everything, and keep that into perspective. And so I was meditating and marinating on um, when bad things happen. Not just when bad things happen to me, but when bad things happen to people in general. Just when you hear about these different stories of people losing their loved ones, particularly to gun violence and things like that. And um, when you hear about these horrific events, it was a story about a man that killed his wife and his two babies. She was pregnant with a baby, and he killed the two. It was horrible. It was just, oh my God, it was terrible. It just made me want to cry. It was just horrible. And really really made it bad when they showed videos. They showed videos of the family and the little girls. They were so cute, and I just come to find out he had another woman on the side, and he wanted to get rid of his first family so he could start another one. Just horrible. Just horrible. And then he tried to cover it up. I know you guys have seen that in the news. So it's just stuff like that. It just makes you heart sick. I mean, I don't know about you guys, and when I watch stuff like that, it just makes me heart sick. It really makes me heart sick, and I just don't understand what's going on through people's mind and want just make people want to do stuff like that. Just it's just horrible, and living in the end times, and the Bible prophecy is being fulfilled, and talks about men being lovers of themselves and not having a natural affection. That's definitely manifesting. And if you don't have a godly heart, you don't have God in your heart, and Satan can get that window in. If a window in there is open, he can get in. He can get in there. If you ain't got God in there, so that's the case for a lot of people. Um, but that's what I want to talk about. When bad things happen to people, I was marinating on this last week. When bad things happen to us, or um, we have bad things happen. It could be a job loss or anything in life. It could be um, just about anything that bad that happens to us, or any type of misfortune that we have in life. Sometimes we have the tendency. Um, I know when we go out in the ministry a lot as Jehovah's Witnesses, we go out in the ministry. It's one of the number one questions that people ask. Why do God allow or cause, or would they think that God causes these different horrific things to happen? School shootings, when you hear about the school shootings and people going into malls and shooting up, police brutality, all these different issues, all this gun violence and stuff that's going on in the world. And of course, people are, it's getting worse and worse. So that's the number one question that people have is, why does God allow this stuff to happen, Um, and some people actually think that God causes it. Like the suffering that's in the world. When you look at these children in other countries and they're starving and they're really skinny and suffering from malnutrition, and even the people in this country, we got so many homelessness it's becoming an increasing uh, it's becoming a more serious problem in this country. Even in my city that I live in, we have a homeless problem here. I don't think that we should have one here, but we do. And so it's becoming more commonplace to see homeless people on the street, and it's getting worse, you know, um, because this whole world is governed by greed, and um, there's plenty of places for people to live. There's plenty of food. The food is in abundance. Plenty of places for people to live, but because of greed, enough people. There's a lot of people going hungry. There's a lot of people going without housing, and it's because of greed. You know, instead of the rich people helping the poor people like they're supposed to, and I'm not saying that certain rich people don't help people, but they're not helping them like they should. They're not helping the poor people like they should, because if you're a billionaire, well, what do you need with $1 billion? I mean, you can only buy so many cars and houses and things like that. Come on, those are material things, and we only have so many material things. So I mean, really, at the end of the day, do you really need $1 billion? No. So you could be taking some of that money and a good portion of that money and being a blessing to people and helping people. Not that you could save the whole world, because you can't, but if you get quite a few rich people together, they can accomplish a lot. You know. Well, I'm not trying to get off topic, but actually, I'm gonna do a video talking about homelessness. So stay tuned. Um, I got a video topic coming up pertaining to that, so stay tuned. Um, but when you see the different things, people see all these different things happening in the world, and it's a good question. It's only natural that they would have that question. It's a fair question. It's only natural that they would have that question. Why does God allow suffering, or why does He allow that's a fair question, and it's a difference between, a lot of people think that He causes it, like like, well, what come all the lot of these children be going hungry and all that stuff like that, and why does God allow that? And it's because of greed. And so people get caught up sometimes in blaming God, even for their own personal struggles and their own personal struggles that they're going through in their life. They maybe they're dealing with a terminal illness like cancer, or diabetes, or something like that. And if they don't have no understanding of the Bible and why we get sick in the first place, then they might blame God for that, you know. Or if they're struggling financially and having financial problems, um, they may blame God for that, or suffered a job loss. They may blame God for that. So that's my question that I have. When bad things happen to us, is it God's fault? Is it our fault? Or is it Satan's fault? Okay? So, and some people blame the devil. Like, a friend of mine, she's going through some trials right now. She's going through some hard times right now. She's going through a lot of trials and tribulations in her life. And she's like, see, Satan is just keep messing with me. And, um, you know, and she thinks the devil is literally attacking her, because there's a lot of things that she's just like, one thing after another. It just seems like, I know I've had that happen a lot of times throughout my life. It's like it just seems like it's just one thing after another. It's always something. This happens, then this happens, and this happens. Just it just seems like it's always something. It's just one thing after another, and I think we've all experienced that at one time or another. And it just seems like it's always something. If it ain't one thing, it's another. And so a lot of times people have a tendency to blame God when something bad happens to them, or they have tragedy, they lose a family member to sickness or gun violence or something like that, and they have a horrific event happen in their family, and then they say, "Well, God, why would you allow this? Why would you let this happen?" And they blame God, and it kind of breaks down their relationship with God, or lack thereof. They may not have one to begin with, and that's hindering them from building a relationship with God because they're blaming God, or they're angry with God for it's like, well, why would God allow this and everything like that? And so they might hinder them and stop them from forming a relationship with God. So, but there's three variables there. Is it God's fault, Satan's fault, or is it our fault? And let me tell you, some things that happen in our lives, some bad things that happen in our lives, it's not God's fault. It's God. The scriptures say that God does not. He does not cause bad things to happen. He does not. I can't remember. I know where a lot of scriptures are, but I just don't. I mean, I know what the scripture says, but I don't know where it's at. But it says God does not try us. He does not try us. He does not put us on trial. So God does not, to set that record straight, He does not cause bad things to happen to us. A loving God, He's a loving God, and He wouldn't do that. And so 9 times out of 10, it's not going to be God. It's never going to be God. He doesn't put us on trial. He doesn't put us on trial. He doesn't cause bad things to happen to us. He allows it, and there's a reason why He allows certain things to happen. Um, but allowing something and actually causing it is two different things. He never causes bad things to happen. He never does that. So, but some things that bad things that happen in our lives is not. It's definitely not God. So take Him off the list. Um, it's not Satan. Sometimes we have the tendency to say, "Well, see, it's the devil. It's the devil. The devil. You see, it's the devil." Uh, and some people get carried away with it. Every little thing that happens, see, that's Satan. Satan is on me and everything like that. But sometimes it's not Satan. Sometimes it is. Sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's the devil, but sometimes when bad things happen, it's our fault. Sometimes those bad things that happen are due to our choices. And also, the Bible talks about unforeseen occurrences. You know, also talks about unforeseen occurrences. There's a scripture in the Bible that talks about unforeseen occurrences. So that means that if something happens, there's no reason. It may not be a particular reason why it happened. It just happened. That's what unforeseen occurrences mean. It means that um, there's really no reason for it. There's no rhyme or reason. Because we always want to try to find out, okay, why this happened. Sometimes there is no reason. Like if you get into a car accident, you're driving down the street and you get into a car accident, a fender bender or something like that. Well, I mean, it could be a reason, and again, it might not be a reason. Sometimes things happen um, in life that um, it just happened, and there's no particular reason. It just happened. It's just, and that's why the Bible says unforeseen occurrences. That's what the Bible means by saying unforeseen occurrences. It just happened. It's just something that just happened. It's just there's no reason for it. It just happened. And so sometimes that's the case when something happens. In rare, I would say that's rare. It's rare that, but it does. Sometimes things does happen and it just happens. But sometimes, yeah, sometimes it could be the work of the devil. It's never God. So Jehovah God. So we got to take him off the list. It's never him because he doesn't put anybody on trial. He doesn't cause bad things to happen. He allows it, but he doesn't cause it. So we just take him out of the equation right there. But sometimes those bad things happen as a result of our poor choices. I know that I've had things happen to me, and it was because of the choices that I made. You know, some of the things that happened to me in my life was because as a result of the choices that I made, the decisions that I made. If you don't make, if you make a certain decision, or decision, there's cause and then there's effect. You know, there's cause and effect. So if you make a decision and it's not a very wise decision, sometimes something can happen as a result of that decision that you made. If you did not make a right decision, that decision wasn't very wise. Then if something happens as a result of that decision that you made, well, it's definitely not God's fault. You can't blame it on Satan. Or see that Satan, he, you can't blame it on him because um, he didn't cause it, but it could have very well have been as a result of you making bad choices, of you not making the right decisions, you know. And so we got to be careful about that. We got to be careful about placing blame. Sometimes we want to blame somebody, but sometimes it's our fault. Sometimes when something bad happens, it's our fault. As a result of a decision that we might have made, or maybe a bad judgment, and it might be our fault. If we get into a car accident, let's say you driving down the street, you tailgating somebody, that person comes to a sudden stop, and you hit that person from behind. Okay, you gotta assess the situation. Is it Satan's fault that you got into? Oh, that's Satan, or is it the person in front of you's fault? No, because everybody know the rules of driving. The rules of driving is if you hit somebody from the back, it's automatically going to be your fault. No matter what the driver in front of you did, it's automatically going to be your fault because they feel like you should have better control of your vehicle. That's the rules of driving right there. So you have to assess the situation. Okay, I ran into this person from behind. Maybe I was following too closely behind them. And then if the weather is bad, like up here in Michigan, this time of year, ain't no telling what kind of roads you dealing with. If the roads are slippery or whatever like that, and you're following up too close behind somebody, and you hit them from behind, then it was because you were tailgating. You were tailgating them. The road conditions wasn't good. Let's say it's icy out. The road conditions wasn't good. You was tailgating them. So there's some other variables in there. So you gotta say, okay, well, it was my fault. It was my fault. I shouldn't have been following up too close behind them. But some people would do stuff like that, and they won't take responsibility for it. They'll say, well, it was they shouldn't slow down. Why they slow down? Or they'll try to blame everybody else but themselves. Well, that was your fault, you know? And so, if you get into a car accident, and if you made a bad judgment on the road, and then the accident was as a result of that, then whose fault is it? Is it Satan? Is it God? It's definitely not God's fault. Is it Satan's fault? No, it may not. That's not 9 times out of 10. It's you if you made a bad decision. Now, if you know if it depending on the nature of the accident and what happened. I know that I was driving down the street one day in one of my vans, and the tire popped off. Literally, the tire popped off, and the police officer came. The tire rolled around the corner. The police officer went around the corner to get my tire to bring it back. I was driving one of my vans, and my son. What happened was my son put the wrong size tire on the van, and all the tires were uneven. You know, he didn't he it was like the other three tires were the right size, and that one was the wrong size. So you can't be doing that. You can't be driving down the street with uh, one uneven tire. All your tires have to be even. This tire was bigger than the other three tires. So, and it wasn't screwed on right. It wasn't screwed on correctly because it was a little bit, it wasn't the right tire for the van. It shouldn't even have been on the van in the first place. And my son attempted to put it on there, and it should have never been on there in the first place. And so I'm driving down the street. Now I'm getting the feeling that I'm just getting off work, so I'm getting the feeling that the something's going on because I'm hearing a noise, and the van ain't riding right. So my instincts tell me, okay, to drive very, very, very slow, because I knew something wasn't right, but I didn't expect for the tire to pop off. All of a sudden the tire pops off. I laugh about it now, but it was scary at the time. The tire pops off, so I didn't panic when that happened. I slowly, so the tire pops off, I'm down to the rotor. I'm literally down to the rotor. So I was already going slow, so that was good. I hate to imagine what would have happened if I had been going faster. Probably would have flipped. But I already knew something was up, so that's why I was going really slow in the first place. So when the tire popped off, I just gently hit the brakes. I didn't panic. I gently hit the brakes, and I pulled the van over slowly to the side of the road. And um, it came. The rotor. I could just hear the rotor just screeching the ground, and it came to a stop. So thank God. I called my mechanic, and my mechanic chewed me out from one end to the next. He didn't cuss me out, but he chewed me out. He chewed me out. He was like, cars give you signs, and you should have never left in the first place, and all this kind of stuff. Because I was working third shift, and I was wanting to get home, and I figured, well, since if I be careful, maybe I was figuring maybe I'll make it home, and then I called the mechanic once I got home, and he was fussing at me. I didn't expect for the tire to fall off, but it was my fault. It was my fault. The tire should have never been on the van in the first place, and the reason why, the tire fell off the van, and it dented the side of the van. It dented it. So I had comprehensive insurance on the van at that particular time, so I was able to get a little money back for the insurance company. But it didn't have the right size tire on the van, and that was the reason why the tire popped off the way it did. So um, I had to take responsibility for that. My mechanic was fussing, and he was fussing at me, but he went on and fixed it anyway, but he was fussing at me. I mean, it was down to the rotor, and the tire rolled around the corner, and the police officer stopped, and he was nice, and he literally had to go around the corner and get my tire and bring it back. I laughed. It was kind of funny at the time, but at the same time it was scary, because I was scared, because I'm like, oh my God, just imagine had I been going faster, I could have flipped. But my instincts was telling me that I already knew something was up, because it was making a sound, and the van, it wasn't driving right. I kind of got a feeling the tire was wobbly. I didn't expect for it to fall off. I was hoping and praying it wouldn't fall off, but I knew something wasn't right with it. And so that's why my mechanic chewed me out, because he was like, if you knew something wasn't right, then why did you even get in there and drive in the first place? You should have just called me from the job, and I could have came out there, and we could have proceeded from there. So, but I'm thinking in my mind, okay, I'm tired. I just worked all night. I want to get home. I'm going to try to do this, get home the best way I can, but I'm going to drive really slow. And I did. And that's why I was able and the word to the wise, if something like that happens, be calm. The worst thing you can do is panic. I didn't hit those brakes real hard. I just, gently pushed on the brake, and I gently steered the car over to the side of the road. So then I was literally down to the rotor. So it just, it was, y'all could just hear and feel the rotor just scraping the road. And so that in that situation, yeah, it was my fault. We should have never put that tire on the van in the first place. I shouldn't have been driving, like my mechanic said, I should have stayed at the job and called him. I knew something was going on. I knew the tire wasn't right. And I knew the van wasn't driving right and the tire was wobbly and all that kind of stuff. So I knew that it was unsafe for me to drive, but I made the decision to get in and drive. Anyway, I thought I would be able to make it home. So I can't blame nobody but myself for that. So I can't say it was Satan's fault. It wasn't Satan's fault. It was my fault. So sometimes when something happens, it is as a result of our bad choices. I use that as a parable, that of bad choices that we make. It's not God's. It's definitely not God's fault. And sometimes it's not Satan. Sometimes it is Satan. Sometimes it's not Satan. So sometimes it's those decisions was as a result of our bad choices that we have made. So you gotta, and it's about, at the end of the day, it's about taking responsibility. So not everything is Satan's fault. Sometimes it's our fault. So that's what I don't know. I decided to do a video topic because that's what I was marinating on last week. So we have to be careful of the choices that you're making. That that those choices, if that choice that you made resulted in something bad happening, then at the end of the day, you have to take responsibility for it. You can't say, well, it was God's fault. Well, God, why did you allow this? And you go into a tirade with God and you get angry at God because you think it's his fault. And it was definitely wasn't his fault. And then you say, well, it was Satan. He's Satan attacking me. Well, think about it now. What caused the situation? Why did the situation happen? So you got to kind of marinate on it. And then sometimes we got to take, in that situation, it was my fault. I couldn't blame Satan. Definitely wasn't going to blame God. I knew better than that. And I wasn't going to blame anything. Jehovah God was looking out for me, saying, well, she didn't make a stupid mistake. I'm going to go on and look out for her and make sure she, gets out of this safely. So the only thing I can do is to thank God that he allowed me to get out of that situation safely, because if I had been going faster, the van could have flipped, I could have died, or I could have got seriously injured. And I think that was one of the reasons why my mechanic was so upset, because he was like, you something, anything could have happened to you. So I think he was a little scared for me too, and so he completely chewed me out. So anything, I can thank God because he was looking out for me. So and then it was a lesson that I had to learn that, well, okay, in the future, I know if there's something, I have a bad feeling about a tire on my vehicle or something like that, because you could tell when you're driving down the street. I don't know about you guys, but if it's wobbly, if your stuff is wobbling and stuff, you can feel it. You can feel it. The tire getting ready to come off, or you feel like it's acting like, or the screws are not right. You can feel it. You can feel it when you're driving down the street. So that's your instincts telling you got to get off the road, because if especially if you're going to a high speed, tire could pop off. You can flip your stuff. Anything bad can happen. So it's a horrible situation to be in. So it was a good thing I followed my instincts and I drove slow and everything, so I was able to bring the van to a complete stop safely. And thank God that it was early in the morning and there was hardly no other cars on the road. So when you're out on the road, you not only got to think about your safety, but you got to think about everybody else's safety on the road as well, because it's not just your life that you got to take into account, but you don't want to be blood guilty for somebody else's life too. So that's what I was marinating on. It's like, some things that bad happens, sometimes it's as a result of our bad choices and bad decisions and everything. And so it's definitely not God's fault. And sometimes it's Satan's fault. Sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's our fault. Let me know what you think about this topic in the comment section. Weigh in. I got some more interesting video topics coming up. Stay tuned. This is Sweet June.